Blog Talk Radio.
Outside the box. Hi, guys.
Hey, fellas. Hello there.
Welcome to our show, gentlemen. Welcome to our show.
It is such a pleasure to be here. I have no idea.
So,
how was that?
Fully recovered from Halloween?
Yes.
I don't think our show
has been sick.
What?
Are you not hearing voices, or am I insane? Don't answer that.
I'm hearing voices, and you're insane.
Okay. I mean, I heard something seriously demonic there a second ago. I don't know what that was.
Oh no, I heard your voices. What are you hearing?
I don't know. We'll have to listen to the to the recording after we get done.
Yeah,
I heard something like, like really nasty sounding, whatever the hell it was. Did you? I'm not imagining that, right? Jesus.
I heard somebody shuffling, like moving around in their seat or something.
Was it me?
I don't know.
All right. Happy Halloween. I hate Paratopia.
Yeah, Halloween's past.
Yeah.
Well, does anyone have anything they want to begin with?
Hi, Alice.
Jeff, do you even hear me?
I'm sorry, did you say something?
Oh, my God. All right, I'll begin then. As much as I'd like to have another minute or two of dead air, I will, it wouldn't be Paratopia unless we, at some point, made fun of the Disclosure Project. And so, what better to start off with than that? Are you gentlemen with me on this?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Very good. So I got a little email here from the Paradigm Research Group, a.k.a. Stephen Bassett. For weeks and weeks and weeks now, he's been hounding everyone to sign a disclosure petition at whitehouse.org. And they finally responded. But here's what he says. Steve Bassett writes, the White House has responded to the disclosure petition. The final signature count was 12,078. As expected, it was written by a low-level staffer from the Office of Science and Technology Policy, a research assistant. The response was unacceptable. The response page, link above, includes a feedback option. Much feedback is expected. PRG will address the White House response on Monday, November 7th via an international press release and op-ed submissions to various newspapers. In a short while, PRG will begin to pre-promote a new petition relevant to the disclosure process. This petition will then be submitted to We the People, and an effort will be made to garnish the 25,000 signatures in 30 days, the new threshold, required for another formal response. Those who have signed previously will not have to register again to sign the next petition. PRG will continue to keep the disclosure issue front and center within this attempt at participatory democracy by the Obama administration. So apparently he's not glad with what he heard. And this is what, I guess, this low-level lackey, Phil Larson, wrote. And by the way, at the bottom of this, it says that it's a response to two petitions. One, the one that he's citing, 12,078 signatures, and that petition by Bassett is formally acknowledge an extraterrestrial presence engaging the human race. Disclosure. The other one, which got 5,387 signatures, and I don't know who put this one out, says, immediately disclose the government's knowledge of and communications with extraterrestrial beings. Before I go on, does anyone see a problem here?
Yeah, that they're bothering the fucking White House. Well, I mean, what do you want to say there? I mean, it's ridiculous. But please, go ahead.
So this
the whole thing is friggin' ridiculous, but it's okay. I get the point, yeah.
This is what Phil Larson says. Thank you for signing the petition asking the Obama administration to acknowledge an extraterrestrial presence here on Earth. The U.S. government has no evidence that any life exists outside our planet or that an extraterrestrial presence has contacted or engaged any member of the human race. In addition, there is no credible information to suggest that any evidence is being hidden from the public's eye. However, that doesn't mean the subject of life outside our planet isn't being discussed or explored. In fact, there are a number of projects working toward the goal of understanding if life can or does exist off Earth. Here are a few examples. And then they go into SETI, Kepler, a NASA spacecraft, and the Mars Science Laboratory. A last point. Many scientists and mathematicians have looked with the statistical mindset at the question of whether life likely exists beyond Earth and have come to the conclusion that the odds are pretty high that somewhere amongst the trillions and trillions of stars in the universe, there's a planet other than ours that is home to life. Many have also noted, however, that the odds of us making contact with any of them, especially intelligent ones, are extremely small given the distances involved. But that's all statistics and speculation. The fact is we have no credible evidence of extraterrestrial presence here on Earth. Phil Larson works on space policy and communications at the White House Office of Science and Tech. So, that seems credible enough to me. I mean, again, you're caught in this catch-22 of, well, are you ever going to get, like, if he's lying, you're never going to get the answer you want because they're lying to you, and that's their policy. If he's telling the truth, you're never going to believe them because that's not the truth you want to hear. But the premise of the question that this is already, extraterrestrials are here, that's what this is, and you've got to disclose it, is just nonsense on its face. But of course, we already know that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this is how long ago did we bring this up on the show? I think maybe like episode 2 or 3. And I've said for a long time, I mean, how many people here, by a show of hands, would believe the government if they came out tomorrow and said, yep, but they're here and we don't know where they're from and I mean, it's ridiculous. We wouldn't believe them because, going by the Bassett mindset, we've been lied to for 60-plus years of modern ufology. So why all of a sudden are you going to believe anything that they have to say now? It makes no sense to me. I mean, you're not going to get I don't know what answer that he's looking for, but I think that he's probably in a safer arena when he's talking to those faithless informants. You know, that's the kind of venue where he gets what he wants from the anonymous people who don't want to come forward because they fear being killed or some such stuff. That's where his stuff comes from. And
well, if his response is, well, of course this came from a White House lackey, of course it came from some low-level guy, this response is not, well, I mean, what response did you expect? Did you expect, like, a 4-star general to come out and be like, yes, sir, we can either confirm or deny, or right. What? Like, who did you expect to respond? What did you expect them to do by way of investigation? Like, really, what are you expecting? And so, once again, I'm left with either Bassett and company are deluded, and we know at least some of them are, Alfred Weber certainly is fucking delusional, or he's the best actor ever. Or this is all part of his shtick. This is how he sustains himself and makes money, and he doesn't even want disclosure. It's just like, let's keep doing these masturbatory projects to keep my name out there, and now we know that they're not going to respond, but that'll get me some airtime on, say, Fox News or CNN or wherever he has a friend, right, to bitch about it, and that really is what is at the heart of the Disclosure Project. Yeah, well, I think it's about keeping, like you said, keeping his face out there, and of course, painting someone as a lackey, making it look like you were swept aside, like, this is unimportant, please leave us alone, here's your canned response, and this is what you'll get, and that's all you'll get. That kind of speaks to the, the X-Files meme, looking at all this stuff and saying, you're getting stonewalled, so we submitted all this stuff to them, and we gave them reports. I mean, he submitted other things to the White House, if I'm not mistaken there, or he's submitted reports and these sort of things, and I mean, there's no good answer. I mean, there's no real. I don't kind of came and just said, can we petition the aliens? That's who you ought to be petitioning, actually. Because that's the real core of the cover-up to begin with. I mean, there would be no cover-up if there wasn't any aliens to be, elusive.
Covered up.
Well, exactly, yeah. I hate to say it, but I mean, my opinion's been for quite a while now that they may know or have better data than we do, but I don't think they know what it is either, and that's the problem. And that's where somebody like Bassett, who goes in and talks about extraterrestrial, where they can deny that in a real positive way. Maybe it's not extraterrestrial. So there's your answer. There's nothing extraterrestrial here that we know about. And so far as we know, nobody's ever been contacted by ETs and so on and so forth. So that leaves out a very broad...
It's a very sustainable business,
Well, absolutely.
As long as it's held on that keel, it's a very sustainable business. And
well, I just want to know...
Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I thought you were done.
No, I'm of the same mindset as that. That the only thing we know is we know a little bit, but we don't know anything. Essentially, is what it is. And people, as Jeff said, taking that stonewalling and all that, there's your aha moment. So you must be hiding something.
Exactly.
Yeah, but there's nothing to hide, or very little, damned little to hide.
Well, I'm starting to just want to know, every now and then you get these letters from them saying, from the Disclosure people, which is Bassett. It's Bassett in his, mom's basement or something. There is no organization behind him, as far as I can tell, because you call the phone number and you get Steve Bassett. In any event, so he's writing up these things, and every now and then he writes about how broke he is. Where have we heard this before? Right. But he writes these letters of how broke he is, how bankrupt he's been from losing money on these conferences and such. And then the very next email will be how he's going to be on CNN, or how he's speaking somewhere in Europe or in California. And it's like, well, which is it? Are you broke or do you have airfare? What's the deal here? I want to know what he's actually making off of this, and who he's a lobbyist for. What does he really do? What is his job? I mean, we've talked about this, I'm sure, and I mean, I'm stealing everything here. I'm stealing from Jeff, whether we've talked about it publicly or not, I don't remember. But I really am starting to wonder these questions that you have brought to my attention of who the freak is this guy? Yeah. Well, because there's I've not heard him talk in depth about where he came from, how he got involved in this. What did he do before? What does he bring into the table? And I don't know, you kind of almost expect that from, a person who has kind of elevated themselves in this field to a point where people know who he is. He's been on national television and the national media, and I don't know, it's like, who is this man? Where does he come from? What's he about? And you don't get any of that.
Well, careful, Jim, because you're starting to skirt the issue that he's a shill for the disinformationalist.
Right.
I don't think so. I think it's like this. If he can get 25,000 people to sign a petition, surely he can get them to send him $1 a year.
Well,
And
you know what the other thing that has always got me about his whole thing, especially this whole petition of the White House. Anybody who looks into this from a government type of angle, the first thing that you come across in any of this UFO business is that all of the data that they collect or that they have or that we think they might have is compartmentalized, meaning it is spread across multiple places, and no one really has, or very, 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 very few, have a view of the entire
picture. Yeah, the whole
right.
picture.
So being as compartmentalized as it is, and must be, in order to maintain its covertness, how in the world does this man think that a petition online in public view to the White House of all places would be effective? So you see, it's the same thing. It's posturing for the sake of posturing to me. Like if you've looked into this at any point and you have these contexts that you allegedly say you have, which I believe, Jeremy, he mentioned one of them, the very last X conference that we attended, and I don't even remember what year that was. But but he said, I've spoken to this man and he's very deep into this and all of the extraterrestrial contacts.
If I remember correctly.
In West Virginia, yes. And all of this is going on there and so on and so forth. And I'm like, okay, well then if you know that, then no doubt that contact has told you all of this information is really compartmentalized. And so here's what I can tell you. Here's what I know. So how do you possibly think a petition on a White House public forum is actually going to work? It's not going to work. You know it can't work. So I don't know.
Well, that's just it. So either you're left with he's nuts in some way, delusional, something. Keep doing the same thing over and, expecting a different outcome is the definition of insanity, right? Or he's not. And if he's not, then he's full of shit.
Look at
and making money off it.
There is a presupposition going here that the United States government is one solid, conglomerated, totally in sync functioning unit, and it doesn't work that way. They're different agencies, and they're really basically in competition with each other as to who can get the funding and who can get this, and that's really what it's about. It's not about trying to hold a giant secret from the rest of us little people. It really isn't about that, and to even. I just harken back. I remember a long time ago, Bruce McAbee mentioned an article that I think he had written to us some years before, and this was back in the early 90s. But I think the article was titled "What the U.S. Government Would Know If It Read Its Own Documents."
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, they're not the totally in sync unit that these people suppose them to be. That's the point.
Yeah.
Well, isn't it ironic that the government is in the same position Bassett is in? Either they're lying or they don't know anything.
Right. Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I mean, that conference is not a cakewalk in financial terms. So do the math. I mean, think about it. Think about the money that's generated off of something like that versus the cost that you might have to lay out for 3 days in a Washington D.C. hotel. That's not a shabby hotel by any stretch. It's a nice hotel. Mm-hmm. I mean, this takes money to do, and I'm sure that putting yourself out there in that respect of, look, I'm actually doing something, I'm working at this. Meanwhile, you've put up the petition and you've basically shouted on every message board. And after that, the work's pretty much done. You just keep plugging it anywhere you go. And so from that standpoint, the cheesy poof dust can settle on top of the chest as you watch the soaps, and you look like you're severely involved and you're really working in this thing to try and get somewhere. And that catches the attention of people, who have money and who think like you think, that they know something, and by God, let's get this man some money and let's get him financially back so that he can really do some work. And as far as I can see, it's all petitions, and I've not seen anything else. It's petitions and a conference, and going on and these press conferences, at the press club and all of that. I mean, I just don't see what it does. And like I said, the last X conference we went to was when he thumped his hand over and over. It's confirmed. It's absolutely, without question, extraterrestrial. And I think that speaks volumes right there. That was when I was finished with that. I mean, that ended it for me.
Well, even if he's
put it in the context of, say, the Manhattan Project. Say it's 1943, and there's these rumors flying about we're developing a super bomb somewhere. We're going to have a petition. We're going to get 25,000 of the 125 million Americans at the time to, or 100, however many there were, to sign this petition, and we're going to go up and knock on FDR's front door and say, "Excuse me, sir, you have to tell us this." Okay, that's even assuming that there was something to tell.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to go, well, yeah, you're right, okay.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Yeah.
Well, I just want to get back to the point of money, which is that even if he's losing money on these conferences, it's not his money. He finds giant donors. He finds rich people and gets money from them.
He doesn't have the big corporate sponsorship that...
he doesn't have big corporate sponsorship. What he does is... but what he does is he finds rich people with an interest in this, and he gets money from them. I know that because he's asked me to help him do that before. So that is how he functions. So, most likely it ain't his money. If it is, it's not all his money. But whatever he's spending, again, he can do a tour of, whatever it is, Europe, Australia, wherever it is he went last.
Jared almost sounds like a hustle.
You think?
I don't. And the thing is, and here's what's really sad about it is when you go to this conference and you talk to some people are genuine and genuinely interested, and don't necessarily share the point of origin contention that he has, and that's refreshing. But again, those people are in a minority, and you've got a big subset of the UFO interested public that wants desperately to believe that this is the situation, that this is what's going on, and that they know and they're not being told. And so you've got to have people that essentially want to live in that thematic, which is what it is. So they live in that thematic because that's dramatic. It's cloak and dagger. It's a mystery. It's the D&D again. It's the Dungeons and Dragons scenario. So people want to play that game, and he can find willing players to do that. And that's where it ends for me. I mean, that's kind of what it boils down to. And you talk to anyone at those conferences who kind of share his viewpoint in this, and you'll get that notion real quick that it's this is almost like everybody gets together for that weekend and plays X-Files. And what do you say about that? I mean, it's just I don't see where it's really pushing anything for more research or more understanding or any of that, which is curious why Colin Andrews and Graham Hancock were at the last one, which as we pointed out, he has people like that up there, but then he recontextualizes them for you so that it fits within disclosure in some awkward square peg round hole way. Yeah, absolutely. So,
but why would they do it? Because people do conferences. They don't care who's. We were talking about doing Dr. UFO, Pat Marcatillo's conference in Jersey, right? Is it Jersey? But I looked at who's actually speaking, and Travis Walton and someone else from the Travis Walton case are speaking, and that's interesting.
Huh.
But everybody else was out to lunch. Are you kidding me? And so then it's I think it's very few people who would say, well, you know what, I'm not going to share a dais with them because, of course, you're going to sell books, you're going to make money, of course you're going to. I have a book to sell, however, looking at that lineup, I got to tell you, I couldn't do it.
Right.
There's no way I would share a stage with these people, even if Travis Walton is there. Like, just, it's just icky. It gives you an icky feeling.
Yeah.
My God, integrity. Wow.
Yeah.
Last minute integrity.
I mean, the question isn't. I mean, as far as the X conference goes, my reasoning wasn't, why would someone like Graham Hancock or Colin Andrews do it? I mean, of course they do it because it's a venue. It's a venue to speak at to seemingly like-minded people. The question for me would be not being of the ilk or the viewpoint that Bassett has, particularly Colin Andrews, I would say. I wouldn't say views this the way that he does. Bassett does. So why would you have that person there? Well, because they're a huge name, and ultimately they're a huge draw. But it seems completely, Graham Hancock talking about psychedelic compounds in the way of meeting the alien and seeing these things and all that, and how mankind has been guided by, these compounds throughout history, and this is what's incited, math and art and abstract thought and all these. I mean, what does that have to do with disclosure? That just alone says, okay, this is about drawing as big a crowd as you can possibly get, and not really about a disclosure, a hardcore disclosure movement show. This is about a UFO conference. That's what it's about.
As you know, I mean, I attended a conference earlier in the summer this year, and I got to tell you, I sat and I listened to all the speakers. I'm not going to name names. It's not really important to a point. However, I took everything that was said, of course, with a grain of salt, and it was very interesting. And I paid my money, and I paid for travel, and I paid for arrangement, accommodations and all that. And I got to tell you, it was entertaining to me. Yes, I got to meet a lot of these people. I got to, meet people that I've read and spoken with, but finally got to, lay eyeballs and shake hands with, that sort of thing. But more importantly than that was the opportunity, and this is a redeeming factor to all that. I got an opportunity to meet other people from the audience. You're only looking at it from the stage or from the dais' perspective. You have to look at it from the audience perspective, too. And I had the opportunity to meet a lot of folks and talk and chat and kind of get their stories and get into their head about what they thought. I don't think everybody that goes to these conferences buys everything hook, line, and sinker that these folks are selling. There are concerning folks out there that attend these things. And if that's the price you've got to pay to have a common meeting point, well then, there
should
is
be at that point.
Redemptive value to that,
Sure.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
I mean, the redemptive value to the disclosure conference was hanging out in the bar with, with Ritzmann and meeting people.
That's exactly it. We spent more of our time in the bar.
In fact, I learned more about ufology hanging out in that bar.
Absolutely.
Well, I'm not saying that everybody there has the tinfoil hat on.
Right. Well, that's true. Yeah.
Just
that's
me.
Absolutely true. Yeah.
That's right. Hey, Jeff. I know you try not to pay attention to politics, but did you happen to see the YouTube clip they've been playing on the news of Rick Perry in New Hampshire acting like a Fruit Loop?
No.
Okay. Well, you've got to watch this. And for anyone who has seen that out there, I just want you to know that is the exact performance that Greer gave at the Disclosure Conference. That was my introduction to Greer, which has then become the parody that I do. But, Jeff, you've got to watch that because that is exactly Stephen Greer. I mean, just incredible. And this is a guy who, was billing himself as a tough guy Texan, just like Bush kind of moron. And here he is, doing drugs, taking notes from, bad notes from an acting coach. I don't know what, but a complete, Richard Simmons-esque turnaround in one day in New Hampshire. I mean, just creepy.
Wow. Lots of choices in candidates this day and age. Lots of choices.
Do check that out.
Yeah.
Well, here's a question. So I've got something else to read about our dear, dear friend Jim Peniston. Should we get all the reading out of the way in this first hour, and then in the second hour do after chat from last week's episode show?
Yeah.
Or,
go ahead. What's going on with Jim now?
Well, this is from his Facebook fan page or whatever. Okay. Timetable for Results by Jim Peniston. And he just released this today. So let's see. Let me skip down here. Our investigation into Rendlesham has become rather extraordinary, and it seems likely that it will only get more so. Since our last post of Patience is a Virtue, our work has proceeded at a steady pace, but there is much left to do. We've uncovered and verified a number of significant findings. We have processes underway to uncover and verify information we have strong leads on, and we are busy trying to correlate all of this into a coherent story. Well, I bet that part's true. Even so, we are now ready to announce a date and a venue where we will first present our complete findings. Time and circumstance has slowly shifted our intentions regarding public disclosure of what was an intensely personal set of events for both John and I. To begin with, we both honor the spirit and the letter of our security oaths. We've only gone on record in public in an attempt to correct distorted information released about Rendlesham up through 93. We've been limited in our ability to do this because of the inexplicable nature of what we experienced and a concern that we would not be believed nor our story accepted unless we could back up our statements. And that was difficult. Recently, our investigation has taken us to new levels of understanding, and we have evidence to back our case. A picture is starting to form that sets the record straight, exonerates some who have been castigated, and reveals the truth, to the extent we can define it, about what happened over 3 decades ago in the midst of a Cold War. I just want to stop myself here and note that I think the reason that the picture is so confusing and needs to be set straight and exonerate people is because they're the ones who screwed it up. I mean, right?
Well, yeah, there's that. Yeah.
Out of respect to the United Kingdom and its citizens, our policy has been to make major releases of our findings exclusively in the UK. In keeping with that policy, we've decided it is only right to first release the most recent of our findings at Woodbridge, England, the place where our investigation started half a lifetime ago. Thus, we are announcing our joint appearance on Saturday, June 16th, 2012, mark it on your calendars, folks, at the Woodbridge Community Hall as part of the Rendlesham Forest 2012 conference, which will also include Larry Warren, Peter Robbins, and a special appearance by Travis Walton. Man, that guy gets around. We will deliver at that time what we feel is the most comprehensive and accurate overview of the incident, its origin, and the complicated series of versions released. So they're finally going to, it's like Lost. They're going to bring together all of the threads that they've thrown out there and try to make a cohesive thing out of it. It gets better, though. At the moment, we're still deeply involved in the process of following leads, interviewing witnesses, verifying evidence, all the shit we already said, correlating data and making a case, just as we would in any police investigation. Thus, we ask your continued patience with our general silence on the matter until we can put the full story together for presentation. We can say with some certainty at this point that the full story is unexpected by most. It will challenge various belief systems as to the quote-unquote explanations that have been put forward for the phenomena witnessed by many and reported by few. The answers have astonished us, and we fully expect them to astonish all who attend. This is where it gets good for me. We believe that the effect of learning the full story on anyone who attends will be much more like the effect of the experience upon John and I on that December night in 1980. We walked into Rendlesham Forest believing in a defined reality that gave us a basis to conduct our daily lives. We left saying what we once believed is no more, and what we have just experienced defies all that we have ever imagined. Our reality shifted during our encounter. For many, their reality will shift once we lay out all of our evidence. All that you have ever known about ufology, at least the aspect of its popularity associated with Rendlesham, will be up for question and revision. We intend to clarify. Really, I'll give you a minute. We intend to clarify what really happened and why, both at Rendlesham and at other venues. Let me read that again. We intend to clarify what really happened and why, both at Rendlesham and at other venues. So this is going to be a tour that they're going to...
I'm glad someone knows.
We can only do this thanks to the involvement of witnesses whom are only ready to come forward at this comfortable distance from the event. We will do a presentation in which, through the art of graphics technology, you will be able to see what we saw on those nights. That ought to be special.
Yeah.
And we will present our analysis, which will account for all of the credible, truthful accounts. After the presentation, we'll do a Q&A with the attendees. We will end the presentation with a walkthrough of the events of that night in real time. We'll take attendees back in time 31 years. You will only be able to put into perspective the conversations and the route of travel for us. It goes on and on. For those of you in the United States, we are exploring the possibility of assembling an air travel package. In addition to our event, we are looking into arranging tours that might be of interest in places such as Stonehenge or the summer cross circle phenomena. What may be offered will depend strictly upon the level of interest. If you're interested in the group travel bargain and or guided tours beyond the Rendlesham 2012 conference, let us know as soon as possible via Facebook PM so we can gauge interest and decide if it will allow us to offer a package. In the meantime, we ask two things. Avoid undue speculation and bear with us as we work through the time-consuming tasks of verifying our evidence and leads. Take a drink every time he says that. Let us continue our investigation in an orderly manner. Move along, people. Move along. And for our fellow servicemen and women who were directly affected or observed the event who have not, for any number of fully justifiable reasons, spoken out in this event, contact us directly and privately and add your piece of truth to our developing understanding. And it goes on and on. So, there you go. Oh, well, this is good. We encourage those who will stand with us for fairness, justice, and the truth to consider coming forward at that time in a collective effort to put the falsehoods and distortions to rest and give the world an accurate account of a truly astonishing series of events that have the potential to shift everyone's notion of the nature of reality as our notions of the nature of reality were so dramatically shifted in 1980. And this is signed off by John Burroughs and Jim.
Wow.
Sounds good, right?
That's quite eloquent. You know what? If we ever have a conference, somebody just shoot us.
Oh, hey there, everybody. Oh my God! It just gets better. I mean, it just gets better and better as this mystical 2012 approaches, doesn't it?
Yeah. Well, there's the shovel of wisdom yet again. What do you say? I don't know. It's really such a shame. It's such a shame because I don't know how either the two of you feel or how our audience feels about this, but I still think that there's something that happened at Rendlesham that is very, very interesting, that now is as buried as Roswell is underneath of crap. It's a shame. It really is. And I don't know if you noticed what's curiously absent from all these things is Colonel Halt is curiously absent from these events and these things. And maybe that's the only place where an accurate depiction of what went on that night is going to come from. And if it comes out that it's an unknown, then that's fine with me. I'm fine with that. But all this other stuff, from the binary code to this to now, it almost sounds like an enterprise presentation here where we're gonna do tours and we're gonna book trips and we're gonna do this. I mean, this is all.
I think
it's
we
all
should
just
have
very disheartening.
Cruises for USOs.
Right.
Cruise packages. going USO chasing.
You know what it sounds like to me? It sounds like, all right, we put the lure out there to see how people would respond, and because we're kind of lazy, we didn't know how much of what we were saying wouldn't actually make sense. You know what I mean? Because they don't have a cohesive story anymore. So it's like, let's throw it out there. We'll see what people come up with in terms of contradictions for our story. Then we'll go silent. We'll try to make it into so that it all makes sense in the end, and then we'll produce that. That will be in 2012. This is where we tie up the loose ends and fill in the holes of the contradictions.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, it's I think it's NH UFO Radio just said in the chat board that they were reading about the case tonight in Revelations by Jacques Vallée, and he mentions that soldiers were ordered to go into the woods without their weapons, which seems a bit odd. And the reason it's not that odd is because they were on British soil. So being off base, you're not allowed to carry weapons off base because that's not when you're on a U.S. military installation in a foreign country, that's the U.S. soil. Once you go off that soil, you're really not supposed to carry weapons. So not knowing what they were going to encounter out there, and it could have been anything, that's actually not that odd, I found out. So, I don't know. It's the whole goddamn thing is so depressing to me. It really is. It's really depressing to me. And as much as I hate to say this because it sounds so conspiratorial, I hate to say this, but it almost seems like it's intentionally ridiculous. Does anybody else get that feeling besides me that this is intentionally being stomped, or is that just me, or am I just
by whom?
Being a little by?
I don't know. Is it intentionally being stomped by as part of a disinfo thing, or is it intentionally being stomped by a couple of guys who need money for some reason, or need fame for some reason, or whatever it is?
I don't know. Yeah,
I don't know.
It's not like this was high on the radar.
I agree with you on the initial thing, which is I think that there is a real event that happened. I do believe that.
Yeah, and I think those two guys saw something too. I mean, yeah. But it's
easy. Of course, it's easy to say it feels like it's being stomped on purpose. Because if you don't know the facts, it's going to feel that way, and maybe it is. Maybe that is the answer. But it's being stomped, so who's doing it is the question.
It's being stomped by itself in a way. Because if you view the phenomenon or any kind of paranormal phenomenon as something that happens, and I've said this till I've been blue in the face, that any stimulus that occurs outside our normal frame of being able to abstract a meaning or, logically deduce some kind of meaning, either consciously or unconsciously, out of it, you can come up with all sorts of different interpretations. Everybody, that's why there's so many different models of craft out there that are seen. Mm-hmm. Everybody shrouds it in what their own, what they come up with. Not that they're making it up. No, the stimulus is real. It's there. We just don't know what the hell it is. Because, and then you get 300 people seeing an event. If you sequester all 300 of them or whatever, if you sequester all of them, interview them, they're going to give slightly different details. That's true of any situation. But sometimes there are even widely varied details as far as what's been observed. Sometimes they're somewhat similar, but if you look at the bell curve of how all of the reports of an event correlate, I don't think it's going to be as pointy as one might suppose.
No,
it's something that and that's why it stomps on itself because we don't know. Some people see the Lazar craft. Some people see Mack trucks.
Yeah. Well, there's that.
Some people see big glowing gold balls.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, the other thing here is that it wasn't exactly like Rendlesham was on the block. In other words, not a lot of people at that point in time, when this all came back at the 30-year point, not a lot of people were paying a whole lot of attention to Rendlesham. It was kind of an unknown. It was a solid case. You had solid witnesses, so we thought, and that's what we got. And isn't this an interesting case? So what more can be gleaned? And the answer was, nothing really can be gleaned from it. That's the end of it. That's what it is.
Right.
That's where it sits.
There's your conclusion. That's an interesting case.
You know? And so now to extrapolate over top of it 30 years later is what's highly suspicious to me. That just makes me say, well, why 30 years later? Why binary code? Why include High Brazil into this? All of this kind of stuff. I mean, that's why I say, you know, it's probably a little too far on the edge to say that this is purposeful, being as this wasn't under the microscope anyway. If it had been underneath the microscope and a lot of people paying attention to it, then chances are something would have come in to mangle it up. I get that. This wasn't like that. This was out of the blue. Boom. Guess what? There was binary codes at Rendlesham. Oh, is that right? Well, where was that on Unsolved Mysteries 20 years ago?
Right.
You know? So,
well, somebody had asked about the binary code, and he doesn't mention, I think it was NH Radio, he does not mention anything about the binary code. You're just supposed to wait and see when he ties everything all together. Right. But I'll tell you, sort of getting back to somewhat what Lee was saying in a roundabout way, but just in terms of memory, I mean, if you throw away all of the extraordinary claims, it's an extraordinary claim to say, we're going to take you back step by step. You're going to be, it's just like you're in our heads. It's just like you're there 31 years ago. That's just not possible. I mean,
and we're going to sell you our interpretation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're going to sell you our interpretation.
Based on expanded evidence, you know, and now you add that caveat, and then it gets a little weirder, you know, based on expanded evidence. And then based on expanded evidence from even what we've already presented, which is the binary code, because now we're interviewing witnesses, we're looking at witnesses, we're doing our investigation. Let us do our investigation. I mean, what investigation? What witness? What are you talking about?
Yeah. Well, that's the teaser. Yeah, that's
going to be Mixelplink or somebody. We've got here a real alien. I just want to see some Paratopia themes in their giant ufological ground-shaking explanation. I want to see, like, some of the stuff that we've talked about in the show work its way in there.
Hopefully tree snufflers and Puck Wedgie.
Puck Wedgie.
Yes.
Jeff with his perfunctory Puck Wedgie.
Yeah.
What happened was the base commander was doing sigil magic one day, and he conjured up a Puck Wedgie that called in its friend a tree snuffler, and bam, zoom to the moon.
Yeah. Yeah. Such a shame.
And yet, something's going on.
Yeah.
Isn't that curious?
Thanks for bringing us back.
Sorry.
You're welcome. All right, let us now clear our palates, shall we? That's really all I've got for that. So.
Oh, okay.
Let's move on to the after chat, because we said we'd do that.
Yeah.
And what does one say about last week's episode? I guess for those who didn't listen to that episode yet, we had on an experiencer who taped a conversation with his mom, and we played some of that. He had never spoken to her before about his experiences. And then we, went into depth about that and about his life. And one of the things that kept coming up, I find it fascinating that this is something that we've been talking about recently on the show. And once again, here it is. It's like every now and then you get that one episode that sort of ties everything together. So I guess two things really for me. The first one is, does this phenomenon or all of this phenomena in some way, is it an outgrowth of the person, right? We saw that with my friend from the pet shop. who was having demonic activity happen because of her, because, of what she was going through. At least that's what she and her family attributed it to. Had someone write to me who was doing ego work on himself, he says, and had demonic activity start to prop up, there. And I guess and then the Ouija board episode, right? So the Ouija board episode is me and my friend sitting around playing with a Ouija board, and all of a sudden we're manifesting all this shit. And Jeff put out there the notion that we're sort of charging up the atmosphere, or maybe the board or something, and then there's this release of energy, I guess. And I had sort of said, well, is there a way to tie this together with plasmas? That NASA has found these plasmas that seem to exist and be intelligently organized for a short duration of time, and then they dissipate. Is there some connective tissue there that we need to start pulling on? And so lo and behold, here we have the story of this guy, right, who has this paranormal activity happening around his anger emotions that is forming plasmas that he literally sees in the Navy as plasmas associated with the storm, if we're to believe that these are all connected, because he says he might have been controlling them with his hand. And he also saw them in his bedroom, and even the ones in the bedroom smelled like, ozone in the air and all that. So it was as if it was a ball lightning or a plasma of some sort. And in fact, it was blue, and it was in his closet, and it was blue at one point. And that is the same color that the gal from the pet store saw coming out of her closet that she was afraid of. So we're starting to see these connections, right? And so to me, that's what's really interesting about this episode, is seeing these connections come together. What is it about plasma? And, is there something about plasma and us being able to manifest that? Is that what we're manifesting out of the atmosphere? Because you've got to manifest something. You can't manifest nothing, right? So are we willing some sort of thought form into the atmosphere that is made out of plasma that sort of dissipates when it's, done with its charge? Is that what we're saying?
That's what you're saying.
Are we saying that makes sense? Not that that's the final answer on anything, but that's, possibly part of what's going on.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I guess it's entirely possible. I mean, Shane asked a good question. What does ozone smell like?
Dirt.
I always equated ozone like, and Lee, you probably would know better than anyone dealing with electric for a lot of your work and whatnot. I always thought that ozone smelled kind of like when a telephone pole, blows its insulator, and you have that really sharp smelling, almost like the smell of a light socket. Is that right or wrong? Is that what ozone smells like?
That's close. It's not. It's I think you got to be careful not to confuse the acrid smell of like the insulators and things like that. But I remember it was explained to me in 6th grade that that smell of the air after a very powerful electric storm.
Yeah,
something like that. That's kind of an ozone smell. That's a pure ozone smell. Yeah. It's not just the air being clean and clear. There's a certain like little tinge to it.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly. I mean, to me, it's possible that. I mean, plasma is charged air. I mean, that's what it is. It's charged air and charged particles of air. Is it capable? Are we capable of doing that? I don't know. Could that be what it's made of? Yeah, it could be. But you would think that you would get the ozone smell. You would think that there would be other effects such as burns, on the wall. And just say, you have one like I do, which shows up, less than 4 inches off the top of the ceiling. I would think you would have a burn there of some sort. I would think there would be some sort of after effect or darkening of a certain area. you would think that if someone came in contact with it, there would be injury. That has happened in some cases, not in others, but
that would be.
I don't know.
That would be the supposition if you're talking about a purely physical kind of manifestation.
Right.
It's almost would be like it's within two separate worlds. You know what I mean? It's in the world of mind inside as well as an external influence as well. So therefore, it may not always manifest in some kind of, some kind of burn marks or anything like that.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, NARCAP did this report on plasma phenomena and said that, if I'm not mistaken, because I have to remember this from memory, that some of this stuff can appear from a certain vantage point to almost be metallic. That it can take on that kind of appearance, in a certain state at a certain viewing distance. It can take on the appearance of a silvery material. Is that part of what this is? Is that why people are always seeing a silver thing in the air, a silver orb, a silver disc, so on and so forth? I don't know. I mean, it's as good as answer as any, I suppose. I don't know. I almost think that it would be something that's already, and I guess if you look at plasma as to what it is being charged to air, I guess you could say it is already here. But I would think that if something is manifesting, it's going to use, or it would use, and this is purely, again, this is wild speculation, but wouldn't it use a material that's already conducive to existing in this place? Dirt, air particles, pollen, chlorophyll, pulp. I mean, I don't know, anything that you could think of. There's something to me about that seems like there would be no trace of it. There would be no trace, just like we have literally no trace of an alien body or that sort of thing. We've got none of that in the physicality sense of things, if you approach it from that way. But plasma, I suppose if it's not going to come in contact with the ground, or if it is going to come in contact with the ground and it is going to leave an effect. See, I don't know. This is where it gets so wild into speculation. You just shrug your shoulders because you don't know. I mean, you don't know where this stuff can come from and how it can manifest. But I would say it's possible that could be part of something there. The mechanics of that I don't know enough about, really.
Well, and that's completely consistent with the notion that you've maintained for years too, Jeff, that the more attention you pay to this stuff, the more it happens.
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Completely consistent with that.
Mm-hmm.
The more synchronicities you notice, the more they seem to happen.
Yeah. I mean, it's I don't know. I mean, the physicality of a plasma. I suppose you could attribute that to ghost phenomena in some ways. You could say that the fictitious ectoplasm is plasma. I suppose in the case of some UFOs, you could say plasma. I was just listening to Dreamland last night, and they were talking about, I know I'm going to get the state wrong. There's a place where people are seeing fireballs. I want to say Iowa, and I know that's not right, but it's somewhere in the Midwest, I think. Somebody on the message board help me out here. They're seeing very large fireballs, some of them hovering less than 30 feet off the ground in people's backyards, which then depart, to the southeast at a high rate of speed, seem to be intelligent. Is that a plasma? It would stand to reason it could be a plasma if the reports are actually accurate. If not, then I would say by the color that they're seeing that are we due for another earthquake this time out there somewhere? I don't know. It's a good question, Jer. I honestly don't know what to say about that. It just feels to me like we're missing a big piece here of something in the way of physical evidence being left behind, if that's indeed what it is. A real plasma. I don't know.
Yeah, or even the fact that it's coming up, he had mentioned near his TV, I think was the last time, or coming up from behind his TV, and I had asked, is it 3D in the room? Yes. Did it singe the wall? No. Well, is it screwing with the TV? I mean, obviously not. It's not destroying the electronics in front of him. So, yeah, what is that? But then on the other hand, so maybe it's a wrong conclusion to say that that's the same as, either the same as the balls of light he saw while on the boat in the Navy, or maybe those balls of light just simply weren't ball lightning. They were this thing that he was seeing. that's true. Yeah. I mean, I find his cultural, connectivity to that to be, I mean, I don't mean this in that way it sounds, but funny. I called the episodes, Son of Odin. Right. Yeah, I mean, it's that again is as fascinating to me as Lobo. I mean, it's that same kind of cultural flavor and filter that's playing out, and it's manifesting in a way that would be consistent with a heritage background. That part of it is never going to get old to me, because that's always just like another mask, another masquerade of, this is how you're going to perceive me, and someone else is going to perceive me as this, or as a wild wolf of some sort. I mean, it's just that kind of thing. Just it permeates the Jacques Vallée, thought process of the fairy folk and all of these things. I mean, just that whole big cultural influence upon what people see, how they perceive it. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the people around them wouldn't see it that way. It's just, this is how it manifests for them, based on where they're coming from. So, I don't know. I don't know what to say about a lot of what he related. It's really, really weird. Especially the cloaked guy that he saw speaking in some kind of German dialect of some sort. I mean, you wonder, like, does a person like that, on some level, do they know what's being said? Is it like Lee's download type of thing? Is it that sort of op, or is it not? Is it just one of those weird things that pops in just to shock you out of, or shock you into perceiving it, perceiving it at all? Well, and is it even a Germanic language is the other question, or does it just remind him of one? Because I know the only download experience I ever had, I said looked like photocopies of Russian documents. Mm-hmm. And I remember people asking me, well, could it have been some sort of star language or hieroglyphics or something? And I was pretty adamant that it's Cyrillic, but it doesn't make any sense. No answer really makes sense. So maybe that's just me trying to make sense of it and not have it be something, that I perceive as silly. Even though the whole thing is silly, that's how crazy I am, that I've got something that I can latch onto and go, this isn't crazy. In the midst of this crazy experience. Huh. I'm not that guy.
Right, yeah. Yeah.
But maybe it isn't. So maybe it isn't Cyrillic. Maybe he didn't hear Germanic language because he doesn't speak German, and he doesn't speak, what was the language you had mentioned?
Oh, Hessian.
Yeah, Hessian. Hoth. Does he speak Hothanese?
Yeah. Good Lord. I don't know. I don't know what to make. I mean, I found that, I think that you and I think we're safe enough to say this, that he, and I'm sure you did an awesome job of editing the show together and all of that, but he was very, in a lot of ways, he seemed hesitant to me. And this is not a dig at him in any way, shape, or form. I mean, I can totally relate, actually. Really hesitant to go into heavy description of it. You listen to the things of the words that him and his mom were saying to each other, and his reactions to what his mom was saying, which were like tinged with excited, but at the same time amazed, and you could feel underneath of that's fear underneath of there. That's the starkness of it hitting, which, I mean, I think for a lot of people that can almost play or be perceived in a different way, like somebody's overacting something or overtaking something like that, and that's not what it is. I think it's the bare smack of reality hitting you, and how else can you react to that? When your mother is telling you, yes, I remember this, and well, did you know about that, and so on and so forth. I mean, Jeremy and I talked about this for a while after we were done, and we think that's where that comes from, and that's how that must feel in that moment of realizing that what you kind of suspected or kind of thought or haven't let go of a memory, and then for so long you live with that, and then all of a sudden it's verified by someone else. That's a hard thing to get, but at the same time you're like, yes, I knew I wasn't crazy. Yeah. So I mean that. Well, yeah, but that to me was one of the best points of that show. To me, was him realizing these things with his mom's help and talking about that with her, and then his reaction to that. I think that's very. I think that's a very genuine response in people. So yeah, I mean I thoroughly enjoyed it. I don't know what to make of a lot of it, but I'm not going to deny that a lot of it felt very. And Jim was saying right on the chat board, I thought it was crazy. Yeah, well, again, Jim joined the club. That's not out of the not out of the norm for anyone to feel that way. But I find the ball of light, the cloaked guy, all of that stuff. I mean, selfishly, I find that to be fascinating to me. That now that's what 4 people now that we've come across who have encountered such a thing as this, and I don't know. I don't know. I've got to sit and listen to the show again and again to really be able to process everything about it. But it was interesting.
Yeah, I think the thing that we had talked about isn't it interesting that not just the sort of way this presents itself reminded you of Lobo, but also, like you said, the emotional reaction was in a way Lobo-esque. And I wonder if, there's this thing, and James, since I know you're listening, since you're out there on the board, feel free to call us at 323-580-5757. That way I'm not talking about you behind your back. But is there a thing that they share, which is not wanting to look like a pussy? So you've got this giant fearful thing, yeah. Because, I mean, at one point he just kept stuttering over, I wasn't afraid, it wasn't fearful, but it was, it's like, no, just, it's okay to feel fear in the face of something fearful, because that's what this is. But I wonder if they both have that front, that I don't feel, real men don't feel fear, or, whatever that is. And then I got to thinking, or is it a product of post-traumatic stress disorder? Is there something in there that plays some sort of role in, the facade one puts up when speaking about such things? Do you guys know much about that? I wanted to look it up before the show, and then I forgot. But post-traumatic stress disorder, is that one of the things, sort of a dissociative tendency, an emotional dissociation with the event?
That I don't know, but Jim may be on the line, so why don't we answer this real quick and find out?
Yes.
Hello there. You're on the air.
Hey, what's up?
Hey,
I'm on the
how you
line.
doing?
How you doing?
How have you
That's
recovered?
Right.
What?
How have you recovered from the show?
Oh, I've recovered pretty well, actually. I don't know.
Okay.
I kind of got it all out there. It felt really good. It's good to just have it out there, and you're right about the whole fear thing. You know, I don't know, you don't want to be afraid of this stuff because, you know, I work at night. I walk around in the dark, and you're like, now it's like, oh, well, you know, I have to make an answer now, you know. Especially
Of course, your phone is breaking up.
Really?
Yeah, your phone is all...
Yeah, you want to ring us back? Ring us back, James, and we'll put you through again. Just your phone is like skipping like a record. So give us a call back, okay?
Okay. All right.
And Jim will be right back with us, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Do we have on hold music for that? What's this button do?
You know,
No, that's not it.
The fear is absolutely natural. It's a natural first instinct. And I think any of us that have had any kind of these experiences at first, at least, were fearful of it, only because it's so unknown. But then you get to know the unknown after a period of time, and it becomes less fearful. You don't know what it is, but you know to recognize that it's there, and that you know that you survived it, and everything is more or less intact. As to the post-traumatic stress disorder thing, it's mainly marked by anxiety and depression.
Mm.
James, are you back?
James back, yeah.
Yeah. What's up?
Oh, welcome back.
Oh, cool. Okay. So talk to me about that, about when you're talking about this or when you're thinking about it. I mean, you're a Navy guy. I don't know if that plays into it or what, but do you have that sort of thing of men don't do blank? Men, you have to present a certain image?
Yeah, when you're raised in the Midwest, I mean, we're all rough and tumble idiots with, everybody. I mean, not to mention I was a half-black kid moving into rural America like Iowa. And it's like you grow up like a tough guy. And, you don't want to be afraid of things. And then, you get something like this happen, you're like, wow, real fear is kind of a gift. It kind of makes you wake up, make you feel human or something weird like that, I don't know. Well,
that's interesting. So fear wakes you up and makes you feel human. That's interesting.
Yeah, it makes you feel, it kind of makes you think. You know what I mean? It makes you think, it makes you wrap, it makes you help understand your emotions. You know what I mean? And I think that's some things I get out of, you grow up, you start really working with your emotions rather than, just putting on masks, putting, stuff in front of people so they don't know who you are. And,
I know it's only been a few days since the show, but has anything amped up for you paranormally?
Well, last night was kind of, I've been hearing a lot of stuff. I think I'm more just waiting for something to happen. But my dreams are getting weirder, and it's like I'm trying to meditate in my dreams. I've never had that before. I was like, what is this, Inception? What the hell is this? But
so you wake up into your dream and start meditating? Is that like a lucid dream?
I'm
you wake up
50 years old. No, in my dream, I tried to meditate. I'm like, why am I trying to meditate in my dream? That's ridiculous, And then I woke up from it. I'm like, oh my God, what the heck was that? It kind of startled me. It didn't make any sense because I've tried meditation before and was like, oh, this is neat. But it didn't feel right in the dream. I don't know why. That's kind of weird, huh? But I think it's because of that stupid movie, that Inception thing.
That could be. Although I know, I've had dreams where I start doing hand gestures that have happened to me during, when this meditation energy comes out and does its thing. And some of that happens, in this recurring series of dreams, in this some sort of dojo in purgatory or hell or whatever, and I had the feeling that doing these hand gestures somehow preserved the form, preserved me in this other energetic situation, if any of that makes sense. That basically, if you're sort of brought somewhere else, I mean, what do I know? For all I know, it's just a dream. But just throwing it out there that that's what it felt like to me. It felt like you're preserving your form in this other spectrum of, reality.
Well, I'm going to have to finish urgency now, aren't I?
Yes.
Available at Amazon and Paratopia.net.
Yes, fight your boredom and pick it back up and read it.
No, once in a while. I got it on my iTouch, and I read it when I have the time, and, at night. Yeah, I'll just be quiet on that. I don't read books really fast.
Well, I might point out, James, that the point of that book is to kill you.
I know. I'm supposed to read it fast, like overnight. And
no, I don't really expect
that. I know you're taking it straight.
Thank you. Looking back on the blue light that you saw from the ship, do you still think that was ball lightning, or do you think that was the same thing that was in your living room?
I still don't know what any of this is really. I just freak out when I see this weird stuff. I don't know what it is.
Was it the same quality of light?
Maybe pretty much. I think it is pretty much the same thing over and over again. It's just, I don't know what it is, really. I don't know what the hell's going on, but I'm okay. I'm okay with that. Right. I'm all right.
Okay.
I don't know. It's neat.
Well, just keep that attitude and you'll be fine. It's neat. I like this. I'm happy here.
Yeah, I'm happy here.
All right, very good.
All right, guys.
Well, is there anything that you wish we did differently on your episode, or anything that you wish we'd asked you that we didn't get to?
Oh, I think there was something I was going to mention. And when I was talking about the weird, like first manifestations of the little, the little blip or the little balls that I see or whatever, it reminds me of that when you go into meditation and you see behind your eyes.
Mm.
You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
That's what that reminds me of, because I've just started trying to figure out meditation this year, and I started figuring out how to get in the mind's eye or whatever that is. I know this sounds ridiculous, but that's what it reminds me. Like, oh, I know that. So I didn't mention that. I don't know why I didn't mention that, but maybe that's some of the other stuff that's bringing on these new kind of, I'm okay with it, and, I don't know. I don't know. I'm kind of having fun with it. I'll tell you the truth. Kind of feeling good about this.
Well, good. How are you having fun with it? Maybe you have advice.
Answers. I don't know. I'm finding some answers. Like that Gregory Sam's guy and the Son of God. I bought his book. Well, I could reread it, and that in itself kind of made me think of stuff. Now I'm trying to go back to ancient religions, and Jeff put up the Hessians the other day. It's so interesting. It's so fascinating. It feels, I don't know. It's kind of crazy. It's kind of crazy just, going on this journey to find more and more, just trying to figure out. It's kind of helping me figure stuff out, Right. And I think everybody needs to do something like that if you go through this, is to go on this journey to figure it out, because maybe that's what it is. It's trying to slap you upside your head and go, hey, figure this out. Come on, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it, but in kind of a mean way. But
yeah,
kind of like
right.
the guru or the shaman or the sensei, Maybe it's just myself, being the guru, shaman, or sensei. That's what I'm kind of understanding still. I don't know.
Well, it's very possible. I mean, I think, this is what I was trying to get to. I don't know if it was the last episode or the episode before, where, the person had written to me and said, I'm doing shadow work. I'm working on my ego, and now I'm seeing a demon. And then I asked, is that demon doing things that reflect what's, the things that you consider taboo, what's in your shadow? And he said, yeah. So to me, that, therein lies an answer. And the answer is that when we treat ourselves as separate entities from ourselves, as in when you say, well, I'm working on my ego, well, that implies that there is this thing called the ego that is not you, that you are working on. Well, then that splintered off aspect of you, it becomes like a schizophrenia of sorts, a spiritual schizophrenia, if you want to call it that, or something, where it starts to behave that way. You start to, if you treat yourself that way, you're going to see things that way. So it's another way of and it's an ironic thing. It's another way of not owning yourself by saying that you are doing self-help. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because it's still this removal and saying, well, I'm working on this thing. Well, you can't work on this thing. It is you. So if you own that is you, that's the best therapy you can do, and I think that's sort of the way that you reintegrate that. I don't know if that little spiel just made sense, but maybe that'll help you.
It totally makes sense. It's kind of like that thing, and I know I've kind of stood up and mentioned this to people before, where I've always been afraid of having once lost my mind and think maybe I am crazy, maybe I'm not, because my little brother was he was diagnosed as being bipolar, stuff like that. I have an aunt, she's kind of crazy, certifiably crazy, but so I was like, oh God, I hope I'm not crazy. So I've always been, you got to make sure that when people see stuff, they're not seeing, the stuff out of the corner of their eye that makes them, that they might be schizophrenic. So sometimes when you hear George Norrie talk about stuff, it's like, oh, that's great, it's like, no, maybe it isn't great. Maybe they are a crazy person, Maybe you might want to reel that back. And that's the only problem that I have sometimes, that people talk about this stuff, and then sometimes I think maybe people do need to talk this out with people they know, with people that are, not, don't put you under hypnosis, but maybe talk about it amongst friends or whatnot, because that'll just go wrong. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think it's a real a real journey in as far as getting to know yourself through this is awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's weird. It's better than religion. I just said it.
Amen, brother.
Oh, well.
All right, man. Well, anything else?
No. I got to work tonight, so hopefully I won't see anything crazy tonight. But,
yeah, try to keep it contained to the home, will you?
I will. All right, take it easy. I'll keep listening.
All right. Yep. Thank you again, sir. Take care.
All right, bye.
He brings up something that I actually forgot that I wanted to bring up, which is mental illness. For some reason, I've seen a couple of things over the weekend on the TV about paranoid schizophrenia. One is a woman who now goes around talking about it, but I can't remember which is which. But one woman, one is Carrie Fisher, who we all know and love, tying back to Hoth and Tauntaun. She has a show that's on HBO now that's basically her Broadway show that they just taped. And she talks about her crazy-ass life. But she ended up in a mental hospital when she looked out her window and saw a futuristic city. And this other woman that I saw on CNN who was talking about, seeing things and people that weren't there. And the one thing that they both had in common is that they both got extremely paranoid and started thinking that people were out to harm them. Mm-hmm. And I just wondered in that moment, is that what separates mental illness from not mental illness? Is that thinking that people are out to harm you? Because otherwise, who's to say that looking out your window and seeing a futuristic city isn't something other than mental illness? But even given that, I mean, when I did shrooms, I got paranoid. You always hear this about drugs, right? There's always that moment of paranoia.
Yeah.
It seems like with any of them. So is there just something about a shifting consciousness that creates a paranoia that if you can't say, well, he took a drug. Then they go, oh, well, then you must be crazy.
I think that paranoia in particular just stems from a loss of control, period. You know, not necessarily just, like a real sign of real mental illness or anything like that. That's a normal progression from that. You're not in control. You used to be in control. You take the drug, you're not in control. Some people are comfortable with that, have great and lovely trips. Some people are not comfortable with that and don't have such great and lovely trips. So it's, that kind of, that's kind of the pivot point with that concept. In my opinion.
I guess the real question is, seeing the futuristic city. I mean, I don't know how different that is than seeing a crystal castle if you're in the Amazon drinking ayahuasca. I mean, the question is, what? And McKenna used to talk about this too. Like, what do we mean when we say people are schizophrenic? I mean, we don't know what they're perceiving. And I go back. I mean, God help me when I'm quoting Oprah, but there was a. I think I told you about this. I think I told you about this, Jeremy, when this little girl was on. They did a story on her. She was schizophrenic, and she has this whole rich dialogue of characters that she interacts with in this other reality that she perceives to be every bit as real, if not more real, than here. And she actually refers, when I go there, as opposed to not saying, she's a little kid, so she can't know I'm hallucinating. She believes this is a real place. And I found it really curious that the name of this place that she goes to is something that sounds very much like Kundalini. You wonder, number one, what are they perceiving? And that is their reality. I mean, if you're in a perpetual dream, what becomes your reality? That becomes your reality. So I question, what are you perceiving as opposed to dementia? And when we talk about dementia, in being a hallucinogenic state, you're in a state of hallucinating things that aren't there. The man across the street from me growing up, I think it was a product of probably senility. He was old from the time I could ever remember being a little kid. He was an older man. And I remember any time that we had company and there was a strange car across the street, he called Mom and Dad to ask, or his wife did, to ask, will you please tell Bill that this car is your company because he thinks it's these men trying to kill him. He thought this ever since I could remember. And I remember my mom saying to me, even as a little kid, she said, there's nothing more terrifying than, because I asked, I said, why does Mr. Bill think people are trying to kill him? And she said, honey, he's just old and he's got this in his head and this is just the way it is. And some people, it's all in their minds. And there's never anything more horrible or fearful than something you can't run from, which is the thing in your head. You wonder what people are really perceiving, like what was the genesis of Mr. Bill's psychosis of men are out to kill him, versus Carrie Fisher seeing a futuristic city versus, help me out with the name, Jeremy, Goodnight Moon.
Yes. Brandon D.
Yes, Brandon, thank you. Brandon, seeing, and with his collective group on the compound of ayahuasca, seeing the same vision of this crystal-like castle, and the woods or the jungle that appeared to be completely different and seemed alive, but was completely different landscape than what was actually there in a normal state. I question, what is schizophrenia? What does that mean? And are they perceiving something that's there? what did I come away with from the mushroom, from I guess the clinical standpoint of what's going on there? It's induced psychosis, you know. And so when you see these things, what are you seeing? The mystery still remains to me. Is it a product of my mind, or was I perceiving things that are already there that can be called forth like you're going through a Rolodex? You know, that's what I question. And with schizophrenic, I'm not a psychologist. I don't know enough about it. But from what I gleaned from watching this thing with this little girl in Oprah, is that she has this rich life in this place that they say is in her mind. But when she's there, she sits completely still. She doesn't move. She doesn't talk. It's not like she's talking to people who aren't there. She's still, and she's not there. She's not present in the moment. She's in this other place playing with these friends and these animals that she knows and all of that. I mean, it's all, this narrative was rich beyond a little girl's imagination to me. I don't know what that means. I mean, so I mean, and I would have to ask, you know, with Carrie Fisher, you know, not only seeing the futuristic city, but what were you on when you saw the futuristic city? What medications were you on? I don't know. I mean, that's it just makes me wonder what people are actually perceiving in that state.
Well, then the other question that James raises for me here is something that I remember somebody saying long ago on our show, or on our message board, I guess, which is that somehow people like us, people like Strieber, are somehow doing magic, somehow creating these things for the listener, for the reader. Do you think there is a danger of that? Do you think that if somebody comes to us who isn't having an experience, a paranormal experience, and gives us something that could be a lucid dream, something that could be a product of mental illness, something else, and we frame it for them accidentally in terms of this stuff, can that provoke this in their lives?
That's a possibility, I suppose. Yeah, I mean, it's a possibility. I think you do that by virtue of doing a show every week and having as many listeners as we do. I think that is, you know, inevitably, you know, you're one of the gears in the cog of manifestation. I mean, ultimately, like it or not, that's what it is. But anyone talking about this with anyone else, whether you're considered influential or you're not, or you're middle of the road, doesn't really matter. As long as the conversation's taking place, that's what's going to happen. I mean, in that sense, again, it's that, I think James even mentioned something about being open to it, being willing to entertain it. If that's part of it, then not only our show, but every show about this, nonetheless, and everything in the media that you're seeing now, from John Edwards doing psychic readings to Ghost Adventures to anything else. It's all putting it out there for lack of a better description, as a fish hook. And if you bite it, is that going to manifest it? It might. I guess conditions have to be right. Namely, for me, at least at this point in time, anti-structure. If you've got that in your life, or you descend into it by virtue of your interest in this, then I would say chances are pretty good.
Do we need a disclaimer at the beginning of the show?
Probably ought to, you know.
Listening to this show may manifest entities from another reality.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of which, have you gentlemen had anything happen since the last we spoke that you care to share with the class?
It's been a quiet week here in Lake Wobegon.
Well, I mean, what I told you, Jer, it was this past week, right? About, yeah, well, too much of a synchronicity not to talk about now. I was telling Jeremy about this. I think I told you about, Tuesday? You know what I'm talking about, right? Waking up and...
Yeah.
It was early in the week.
Oh, yeah.
And I I was awakened in the middle of the night with hearing a voice that didn't sound like anybody in the house. And at first, it sounded more like two people and then just one. And I opened my eyes and I heard it, and I kind of sat up in bed and I listened and I kept hearing it, and it was loud. It sounded like it was in the room. Knowing that our room is at the top of the stairs, I think, okay, is it downstairs at the foot of the stairs? What is this? I think my second thought was, fuck, the camera isn't running to get this. But it was a voice that was speaking with great, clarity and preciseness. It sounded like language, but it didn't sound like any I knew. It didn't sound like any foreign language that I've even heard. It sounded like there were words, but none that you could say, oh, that sounded Spanish, or that sounded German, or that sounded Italian. It was nothing like that. And I sat up, I threw my legs over the edge of the bed, and I'm getting ready to stand up and maybe take a peek down the stairs, and I noticed that my neck, my jaw, my lips feel odd. I don't know. It's very loud at this point. I mean, it's loud. It sounds like it's right in the frickin' room. And so I went and I touched my chin and my face, and it was me. I was talking. And it did not sound like me. And the minute that I realized that that's what it was, it stopped. And so I told Jeremy about this, and then we were going to mention it on the show, and I thought, there's no way I'm talking about this on the show. So last night, it's late, and I'm watching, of all things, Celebrity Ghost Stories. Now, I don't remember the man's name, but if you all have seen A Few Good Men with Tom Cruise and Demi Moore, this was the man who was kind of like his sidekick. I can't remember what his name. Jeremy, maybe you know his name. I can't remember it. He was kind of like Tom Cruise's second chair in that spot. And
in what?
A Few Good Men. A Few Good Men.
Jack Nicholson?
No. He was Tom Cruise's second chair in the law firm. It was him, Demi Moore, and Tom Cruise. And this guy played, I don't know, a secondary role to their main characters. But and our science advisor, I will get to Demi Moore in a minute. And anyway, early, I suppose before he started his acting career, Kevin Pollak. Thank you, Alice. Right. Thank you. He was living with a girl that he really liked. They were rooming together, and he said, one night I'm laying in bed and I hear this voice, and he said, I roll over and it's her. She is completely out, but yet her mouth and her whole face is contorting and talking, and it doesn't sound anything like her. At some points it's screechy, at some points it's low beyond what her voice could do, and it is manic. It is just rifling off. Like, really? Really, on Celebrity Ghost Stories? Really? Well, there it is. And he said he talked to her about it after, I think, the second time he encountered this with her. And all that she had said was that people had told her in her family that she was in touch with spirits. So that's how he framed it in the terms of a ghost story. And he said, I was determined to get a recording of this. So he took his little micro cassette and he put it in his nightstand. And he says a dozen or so nights went by and nothing happened. And one night, boom, she's off. and it's rolling. And he reaches over, and he gets the tape recorder, and the minute that he hits the record button, it's like he turned an off switch on the girlfriend. She stopped talking just like that. And he says, the minute I set it down back in the drawer, she started again. The minute I picked it up and put the record button again, she stopped. He said, so that freaked me out because whatever it is doesn't want me to record it. So it acknowledged it. So in the end, I think he said hello. He says, I thought, should I say something? And so he looked at her as she's babbling, and it took this pause. He said it took a pause between, I guess between some kind of phrase, and he said, hello. And he said, at that point, it turned her head at him and began rifling off again these quick verbalizations of which he'd never heard the like of in his life. And so that's what I mean, the weirdest part about it is it felt like my chin, my throat, like the skin under my chin, the skin on my throat felt like it was asleep. It felt like I could not feel my vocal cords moving. I couldn't feel that. My breath didn't even seem like it was affected by this. Everything felt normal except that. And when I went to touch it, I realized at that point, that's my jaw moving. I'm making those noises. It's me. And so to see that on, of all things, Celebrity Ghost Stories was really just, I feel like at this point, now I've got to say it out loud, and that happened, and I don't know what it is. But Lee said this is not uncommon.
No. I've spoken in tongues before. I mean, and just caught myself doing. I mean, I didn't wake myself out of a dead sleep. I just kind of caught myself in mid-phrase of saying shit that I didn't even know what I was saying, and it was not English, and it was not any discernible language. And some folks would say, "Well, you're just talking in tongues." You know, I don't know. That was interesting that when you said when he turned the tape recorder on, it would stop, and it would just like purposely eluding him. So I guess what you're saying then is, you know, to get those things to stop is just to say out loud, I love anal probes or something, right?
Yeah.
And then you won't be bothered with it anymore.
Yeah. I mean, the best defense is a camera and a recorder. I mean, you want it to stop? Put that in your room. But, I mean, there it is. I mean, that was, that to me was just beyond the pale of something to see on TV that very week, last night. I mean, just seeing that just was, I was like, you're joking, right? I mean, this doesn't even really fit that well into, into a ghost story. I mean, is it a ghost story? Is it ghosts? It's not ghosts, right? I mean, the only reason he framed it in that was because when he asked her about this and he said this to her, he said she really didn't have much to say about it. She was kind of close-lipped about what he was telling. He said she listened very intently, but she wasn't shocked. And it was at that point that she said, well, I've been told by people in my family that I'm either I've been in touch with spirits or I've got a sensitivity to spirits or something like that. And apparently in the building that they lived, there was crime of some sort and murder of some sort, and maybe he equated that with this is a spirit using her mouth to communicate. But yet there was nothing communicated, which is, you know, it's. I mean, I walk away from that and I go, it's the crop circle. That's what the crop circle is. It's, you know, communication without communication. We have no idea what they mean, but everybody goes, it's communication. And yet this is verbalizations that mean, for all intent and purposes, to us in this state, means absolutely nothing. And but we can glean very little what any of this stuff is trying to say. You know.
Well, was it still happening when you woke up and you started to feel your mouth? Was it still moving?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's not like you were asleep and you were just dreaming and doing gibberish and all that, or even
and
sleepwalking.
woke up out of it. No, I sat up and had my feet on the floor, you know, and it's still going. I'm like, God, that is so loud. It's right here, you know, and that's when it just struck me like there was this, and I guess numb is the wrong way to put it. It was like, it was like vibrating. It felt like a vibration on. Even right under my nose and my upper lip and my bottom lip and my chin and the sides of my jaw and underneath my neck. All felt. If
you become a channeler, are we going to owe Kinda Gamey a really big apology?
I don't know. I don't think that's it. But if I start, what is it, Gashtar or whatever his name is. No, I don't think I'll be channeling that anytime soon. But
Bashar, I think you mean Bashar.
Yeah, Gashtar.
It's like Gastar tonight, if anyone cares.
Right, Jeremy is Gastar.
I have a channeled message for you. Hold on, let me put the mic down there.
Keep the matches away from Gashtar, Jeremy. But that's it. I mean, yet another reason to think I'm insane. So there you are.
Yes.
That was not something I was really going to mention on the show, but seeing it on TV last night, I think, well, what the hell? More ridiculous.
I had actually forgotten about that. Interesting. I'm glad you were willing to share that with the class.
Yeah.
After all, that's nice.
Yeah.
I had a couple of nights ago. I started meditating again, which for the first time since I've been back here in Mom's home, just on the bed. Yes, I said meditating on the bed, everybody. And night one, and I think I've mentioned this before, and asked if anyone out there knows what the hell is up with the right knee. This energy sort of focused on my right knee, and by that I mean it would make my hands, and especially my right hand, sort of, I don't know, I wouldn't say massage, but something move back and forth over my kneecap and all around it and all that. And it had done that before, and then it sort of like traces out a line with a hand down to my foot. But this time it was doing that, and then it traced a line all the way, up over my foot and down the back of my leg, the entire circumference of my leg. So for like a good 15 minutes, I was just tracing an outline of my leg. And then it laid me down to sleep, and I went to bed, and I got up in the middle of the night to pee. And when I did, it was like, I don't know, it was like my right leg was shorter than my left, or there was an energy encasing it, or something. I don't know what. I mean, it felt like I don't know what it felt like, but it certainly threw me off balance when I was walking to the bathroom. It was kind of hard to walk, and I wondered if this had happened with both legs. Would I go through the floor? Would I jump really high? Like what magic ability would happen? I don't know. The next night,
would it be great if your mom woke? Would it be great if your mom woke up and you were buried halfway in the floor? Chair. Chair.
Not again.
The next night I meditated and it didn't trace an outline of my leg, but when I got up to pee, again, the same effect as if it had. It was the same, like the circumference of my leg is wafting with this energy, and it was throwing me off. It was strange. And then the third night, I didn't meditate at all, and nothing happened. And then last night, I wanted to meditate again just to see, well, if I meditate again, is that what it's related to? Like, did I activate something that is now active and gets reactivated anytime I meditate, whether or not it traces an outline of my leg or not? But I got bogged down in an internet war and didn't meditate, so I don't know. But I'm just throwing that out there as something weird, something I don't understand.
Well, what do you think
so if
it's
anyone,
doing?
I don't know.
I mean, what do you think
I don't know.
I mean, do you have? Is there
I
any after effect to this at all? I mean, physically, is there any after effect? I mean, did you hurt?
No, it makes them have to pee.
That's
the after effect. Go pee, Jay.
No, that's the first time that I've actually felt an effect from any of these gestures, later on. So that was the after effect as far as I'm concerned. But I don't know. I mean, no, there's no, as far as I know, my leg isn't injured in any way. I don't know. I mean, is there some, anyone out there know chakra systems or any of that? I mean, is there some sort of chakra thing associated with the right leg, with the knee, with the foot? I don't know.
I mean, I wonder if it's not some kind of thing that it's healing you. Is it healing you? I mean, if not, I mean, you wouldn't know this, so it's not like you would know. But, did you have a blood clot in your leg? Did it do away with the blood clot in your leg? I mean, this is like, have you had Charlie horses in your leg? Has it been anything with your leg lately at all?
No. I mean, nothing that I would like. I would say Charlie horses, yeah, but I think that's related to dehydration. Drinking too much coffee and not enough water. But I mean, maybe because normally what it just does is exercises and things like that. So, it's possible that because I guess what I'm saying is I agree that it is generally doing things that are helpful. It's just I think some of them are muscular, helpful, and all of that, and then some of them are things I don't understand. Helpful in a way I haven't quite figured out yet.
Yeah.
So I don't know if anyone out there in internet land knows what that could be. Please let me know.
Has it ever done anything that's hurt you?
No.
Not ever, huh?
No.
Okay.
It's all good, yo, as the kids say.
It's all good.
Wow.
And other than that, not a whole lot. Just I feel like I'm seeing a lot of stuff in the room, but that could just be because I'm really tired today. But I don't know. Today and yesterday, I feel like I've seen just a lot of shit. Like, just the atmosphere is swarming with stuff. And it's like, is that cones and rod? Like, what is that? I mean, most of it seems to be out in the room, And it's like a lot of it is peripheral, but some of it isn't. Just I don't understand.
Yeah.
Like, why day over another?
I don't know. Last night when I fell asleep, like I said, I laid there and I was watching TV and I caught this thing about the girl talking and then I kind of dozed out for a while and I remember being dead tired, totally awake, but really tired, and it was odd because I looked over to my far right. I didn't move my head. I just kind of like looked with my eyes over to the right, and thought I saw something, but nothing was there that I laid my eyes on. And then I looked back at the TV, and I think Lisa was changing the channel or something, putting on HSN or whatever she watches, and everything was buzzing. And I thought, hypnopompic, and I was out again, like that quick. But everything was absolutely buzzing to the point where I actually heard over top of everything, like a staticky buzz. And that staticky appearance was over top of everything. And I just chalked that up as like a hypnopompic or hypnagogic type of reaction to waking up half awake. But we haven't seen the ball of light in a while. In fact, again, Lisa was the last one to see it, so we haven't seen that lately. I have run the camera. I haven't done it every day, to be perfectly honest, because I don't have a good way to record the whole night. I only get about an hour and a half a day, and I usually watch it at work while I'm doing stuff and listen. But I got to say, and I got to be honest about this, because to not bring this up is to leave a stone unturned. But if I'm talking and I'm asleep and it doesn't sound like me, was that me laughing? I don't know. On the recording that I got and I played on the show, was that me? I don't know. It doesn't sound like me, and it doesn't sound like it's coming from upstairs. It sounds like it's coming from the back room. But I got to throw that out there because I heard myself speaking, and it didn't sound anything like me at all.
Did it sound like that voice?
No.
I know it's hard to say off of a
the point
laugh.
is, yeah, but the point is
what did
that
it sound like? Can you imitate yourself? What did it sound like?
It was really, really, really low. I mean, low like what was the Almond Joy commercial from long ago when we were kids? Where the bald black guy?
Mine's don't.
I mean, it was really, really, really low. And at times, though, it was, I mean, when I first woke up hearing this, it was like almost like wailing, but chattery. Like it was real high. And then it was this back and forth between the low and the high for that very, very, very short point in time.
Michael Jackson and Propofol. Have you heard that tape?
No, I have not heard that tape.
It sounds like what you're talking about.
So I don't know. I mean, I can no longer rule that out upon hearing myself. So upon hearing me, I can't rule it out. But the only thing I can say is that it very definitely, when I went back and I tried to duplicate that laugh, it most certainly sounded like it was coming from the room that I'm in here, which is this back room. So I don't know. And Alice asked, wouldn't your vocal cords need to be really long to make sounds like that? Presumably, yeah. Yeah, presumably. And what's weird is not only was it low, very low, but it was enunciating these precise words at this lightning speed. I mean, if you had to do it in a regular voice, it was, I mean, it's that fast. But making very enunciated, precisely sound words, but not words that you know. So Jeff, I don't know. I don't know what.
Jeff,
I don't know.
Jeff.
And like I said, it didn't even seem like it was needing breath to do it, which is another weird thing. It was like, and I described it to Jeremy that it felt like there was something in my mouth doing it, as opposed to me doing it. That's hard to explain, but that's
red rum.
Yeah, red rum.
Red rum.
Yes.
Red rum.
Yes.
Yeah. It was me, Jeff.
Okay. I'll accept
well,
that
gentlemen,
answer.
If you can believe it, our time is done.
Sorry,
our
we're
time
out
is done
of
here.
Time.
Wow.
My God.
2 hours fly by.
Yeah, thank you both for another exciting edition of the live show.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
You are welcome.
Thank me, too. Okay, awesome. I'll take it. And thank you, chat room.
Thanks, Jared, for doing the show tonight.
Oh, man, Jeff, you know what? I don't do it for the accolades. I don't do it for the thanks. I don't know why I do it, frankly. It's kind of silly when I think about it. Thanks, everybody, for listening. We will see you next Friday, and then again right here Sunday. Anything you guys want to say before I kick in the music?
Good night, everybody. Thank you for listening.
Good night, everybody. Yes, thank you.
Lame.
Have a good week.
Good night.
You've got to think outside the box.